Relation to International Mother Language Day, which is actually acronymed IMLD. We are joined by a wonderful lady that goes by the name Dr. Susan Nyaga Anzuruni, who is the Senior Literacy and Educational Consultant at SIL Global. And of course, she's also the she's the she's the director of this particular organization's Institute for the Development of Languages and Translation in Africa, also acronymed IDELTA. And she joins us tonight, and one of her greatest passions is to see every language developed and the people involved using it as a tool for empowerment. Dr. Susan Nyaga, it's a pleasure to have you today in our conversation tonight. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you very much, Martin. I appreciate that you could have me tonight.
All right, thank you. Just go ahead and introduce yourself officially. I know I have said a few things about you. There's a chance I have left a lot more that needs to be done, even as we begin the conversation tonight. Who are you? What do you do? And what is this SIL? What do you guys do? And
Right.
we've seen you're very passionate about language development. What is this language development?
All right. Thank you very much. Indeed, SIL is very passionate about language development. As Martin has already said, I am Susan Nyaka Anzuruni, serving with SIL as a Senior Literacy and Education Consultant, but also the Director for the Institute for the Development of Languages and Translation in Africa, where we equip people to be able to do language development work, not only in their communities, but even to support other communities. SIL Global is a faith-based nonprofit that works with local communities around the world to develop language solutions that expand possibilities for a better life. And how do we do this? We do this through when we talk about language development, it is a very loaded term because it includes developing a language right from working on its writing system that we call the orthography. Sometimes we develop the orthographies from scratch for languages that have not been written before. So someone has to go in, study the language, or where there are people in the community that can be trained. They are trained to learn how to analyze their own languages, and we develop orthographies, and that is followed by other work in language development, which includes scripture translation, literacy, education programs, development programs, linguistic research. We've done a lot of linguistic research around the world. We also develop language documentation software and other language tools that can be used to empower the native speakers of a language to use it more effectively. Back to you, Martin.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That sounds like really hard work, but very crucial work in our lives and our systems today. Now, when we talk about this International Mother Language Day, what are we talking about? What can you give us a brief background of this day that we call IMLD?
Yes, I can do that. IMLD dates, the history actually goes back to 21st of February 1952, when students from Dhaka University in Bangladesh went on a rampage in the streets of Dhaka city, demanding for the use of their own language in education and the recognition of their own language. And so 5 students lost their lives. They are called the Language Martyrs in Bangladesh. And Bangladesh celebrates this day everywhere, even in the high commissions of Bangladesh, everywhere in the world. But then the push started for the recognition of the suffering that the people went through, the students at Dhaka University that died demanding for the use of their language. And so UNESCO declared the 21st of February, the International Mother Language Day. And that was in November 1999, but the first celebration happened on the 21st of October, 21st of February 2000. And therefore, today we were actually marking the 25th International Mother Language Day celebration. That's a bit of the history of International Mother Language Day, Martin.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Ari, for that introduction. Now we are on the track. Those of us who were not at par with what happens really. And before we go very far, also we're talking about mother language. Mother language.
Yes.
Why are we not talking about father language? What are these mother languages? What's the meaning of mother language?
It's possible that mother languages got the name from the fact that even when a child is still developing in the mother's womb, what they hear most is from the mother. Even when they are born, they interact with the mother as the closest person that they interact with. And so they pick up so many things from the mother. But actually, when we say mother tongue, we mean the first language that a person learns to speak, and they are confident in using it and they understand it well. So when we talk about mother languages, that is what we mean.
Thank you so much. And the theme for this year's celebration was Make Languages Count, for languages for sustainable development. What is sustainable development in this particular context of mother languages?
When we talk about sustainable development, we are talking about that kind of development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Is
All right.
by UNESCO, by the UN General Assembly in 1957. Yes, that is the definition of sustainable development. And if we were to contextualize it to the mother languages, are we passing on that which we received, or are we, is it ending with us? For example, are parents teaching their children their languages, or are they ending with them, that what was passed on to you, you are not passing on to the next person? It can, I could go further and elaborate that, but I think you understand what sustainable development is from that context.
All right. Thank you for that. I'm reminded of a verse in the Holy Book where we're supposed to freely give as we have freely received. So I think I relate with what you're saying right now. But of course, this celebration today, yourself and many other professionals in the language field and people from all walks of life joined together at UON today. And I was privileged to be among them earlier on today at UON, where we celebrated this wonderful day that is IMLD. What are some of the highlights of this particular day and this particular meeting that you had in UON earlier on today?
Thank you, Martin, and thank you for being there today. I think there were a lot of good things that were happening at the International Mother Language Day celebration at the Nairobi University today. Maybe I will just mention the key highlights for me. We had presentations that seemed to actually agree with the late Alexander Neville's quote that Africa's development will be conceived in an African language. And the emphasis was on how much of foreign languages are known by the African populations. And if a language is understood by 10 to 15% of our population, how much really we do with that? How innovative can we be as Africans in languages that are spoken by a very small percentage of the African population? Our guest of honor took us through why languages matter for development, why languages matter in governance, why languages matter in education, and he also belabored to help us understand the role of language in attaining sustainable development. We also had presentations, even in songs and poems, about why Africans should value their languages. We should value our languages and treat them as the resources they are, as opposed to seeing them as a problem. Seeing linguistic diversity as a problem is what we do in Africa. But should we really see our languages as a problem? or should we use them as the tools of empowerment and the resources that they are in our communities? We heard a lot about the beauty of our language through the different songs that were sung, the poems that were recited, and so many things that were done in our local languages. We really, really enjoyed the beauty of our language. And two challenges were thrown to us, and those are still highlights, because we were challenged by this young man that has taught his 6-year-old living in the outskirts of Nairobi. He has taught her Kimeru, and she's able to run classes on TikTok and on Facebook. And the challenge to us is sometimes we keep saying there is no political will to implement the language policy in Kenya, for example, or in Africa, to teach children in our indigenous languages. But do parents have do they have the will to even teach their own languages to their children? So Mr. Kamanu and his daughter challenged us to think about that. If she can learn Kimeru and teach it to people in a context, in a cosmopolitan context, I believe that other parents can do the same. And finally, the challenge to all of us to do something about our languages, not to just sit and wait for somebody, the government or the scholars in our communities, to do something about our communities. We can tell our stories. We can write poems in our language. We can sing songs in our languages. And all that will be towards promoting the use of our languages so that they are not threatened languages, or they do not die. There was so much that happened, Martin. I think I could spend a lot of time talking about it, but I think that what I have shared suffices for now.
I know, and I totally understand. Reminds me of what the amazing Kithaka Wamberia talked. Kithaka Wamberia wrote the famous Kifo Kisimani that has been read by so many students, and he was really talking to us about how we have an opportunity to build ourselves and become better through the many languages that we have, and the fact that we have many languages, contrary to the word on the street that specifically in Kenya that we are having tribalism because of our languages, whereas in countries like Tanzania, where they have more tribal languages than us, but are united together in Ujamaa. So that is what stood out for me tonight. Earlier on today, I beg your pardon. And of course, without forgetting the amazing children who also came and became part of this. And one of the most amazing things that happens also today is, for me, the fact that people are speaking their native languages. It was beautiful. And even as we get to the close of this conversation, Daktari, we're living in a global village and we have our different mother languages. How do we cope in terms of us interacting with each other, yet we have unique languages that maybe I do not understand this particular language? How do we cope with these other people to make sure that we get to really understand each other in this global village?
Thank you, Martin. Um, the secret to learning other languages, whether they are foreign languages from the languages or international languages of wider communication, or the local languages, other people's languages in our own country, the secret is to be very well founded in your own language, in your first language. Because if you can speak your language very well, then it becomes the foundation upon which other languages build. So if we want to cope well in the global village, we have to be grounded in our mother tongues, because in our first languages, because that is what is going to give us the basis for learning English better, for learning Kiswahili better, for learning French better, and all these other languages that we want to learn. So our languages or our mother tongue should not be seen to interfere with our learning and our exposure to other languages. In fact, every research that has been done shows that they support the development of other languages.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Hari. As we come to the end of the conversation, you said the secret is to be grounded in your mother language. I want to put you to test. I want you to thank the viewers for watching the interview tonight in your mother language and invite them to join the activities, the future activities of SIL Global. Say it in your mother language, then interpret it
All
then
right.
translate it.
Okay. When in my community, when you're very excited and you want to thank people, you repeat what you are saying. For example, I can say Ibwega. Ibwega is thank you. So I say Ibwega ni mono 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 biogobo kundikeretie na kandombe mbetegia ati bukaungana nati rĩrĩa rĩngĩ tũkethĩrwa tũrĩ na kĩathĩ ta gĩkĩ gĩa gũkũngũĩra ndwaria cietũ. What I have said is thank you very, 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 very much to all my listeners and viewers. I hope that you have been challenged, and the next time when we have a celebration like this, you will join us so that we can together celebrate the beauty of our languages.
Thank you so much, Dr. Susan Nyaga, and thank you so much for giving us your time in this particular regard and this particular day. Thank you so much for your time. And that is Dr. Susan Nyaga Anzuruni, Senior Literacy and Educational Consultant with SIL Global. Dr. Susan, thank you so much for joining us tonight.